The G-Shock is one of the most recognizable watches that you will see. It's very popular with celebrities, with athletes, first responders, and let's not forget our military service personnel. This watch is so iconic that it just far exceeds its capabilities. And so today I'm going to be taking a look at 5 G-Shocks, and they are all really great looking and super affordable. And 2 of them, well, they have earned themselves a NATO serial number. That's right, these watches are approved for use with the military personnel out in the field. So why don't we go take a look? Alright, so for those of you that know a lot about G-Shocks, feel free to skip ahead. I've put timestamps in the description below, so you can just use those and skip this part and move on into the actual watches themselves. But if you are a person who maybe does not know a lot about G-Shock or wants to know a little bit more of the history of the G-Shock, well, then stick around. We're going to go over that right now. So, the G-Shock was actually released to the public back in 1983 and was developed by Casio. Now, the concept for the G-Shock actually developed a couple of years earlier, and this came about when Casio was walking and he bumped into another person. And when he did this, the wristband on his watch broke loose and the whole watch fell off of his wrist and smashed into the floor, a million pieces all over the place. Now, at this period of time, mechanical watches were not known for being very rugged or being very tough. They were in fact really delicate. So this just was complete devastation for Casio. Also, his father had given him that watch. So he was just really beside himself. But he didn't let that stop him. Instead, he started to come up with an idea of how he could make a watch that could sustain that type of a fall. So he put together a team called Project Team Tough, and these engineers all set about to try to develop a watch that would adhere to the triple 10 principle. Now, the triple 10 principle simply states that a watch must be able to handle a fall of 10 meters. That's about 32 feet. And it should be able to sustain water resistance of 10 bar. Well, that's 334 feet. And finally, it should sustain a 10-year battery life. So, Casio and Project Team Tough all got together and they presented this to Casio. And Casio was all on board. They really liked this idea and they told him, go ahead, develop this watch. Well, 2 years on and several failed prototypes later, Casio was just at his wit's end. He was not able to develop this watch that followed these principles. Every prototype would break, or every prototype was way too large and it just wasn't going to work. And so by this point, Casio was ready to resign. Yeah, he had put his resignation together and was going to hand it in to his boss and just leave Casio. So, with his resignation in hand, he went to his desk and he put his things into a box and he was just mentally preparing himself. But before he did, he decided he was going to go out to a nearby park and just kind of sit and collect his thoughts before he went to talk to his boss. So he goes to this park and he has a seat and he's just thinking about all of these failures and how this went wrong. And then he saw a child that was bouncing a rubber ball nearby. And he started watching that rubber ball. And that started getting him thinking. And then it hit him. The idea for the G-Shock. He went back into Casio and started feverishly working through how this watch would work now. Now he understood it. He knew that he had to have the module of that watch suspended in a way that it would not take the shock. And so, when he was finished, along with Project Team Tough, they released the Casio DW5000C. This is the watch that started G-Shock. Now, if you'd like to know more about the G-Shock history and Casio and just kind of all of that, I'm going to leave some links below that you can use and go see some other videos around the history of the G-Shock, or go visit the Casio website that talks about Kikuyo eBay's development of the G-Shock. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at the watches. All right, so let's take a look at our first G-Shock. This is the DW5600E-1V. Now, this particular G-Shock has really stayed very close to the original design of the DW5000C, which was released back in the 1980s. Now, this particular watch is probably a really good entry point for people looking to get into G-Shocks. It is listed at about $50, which is a really good price if you're looking to get into G-Shocks and don't want to be spending a whole lot of money. Now, this is basic, so you are just getting things like your standard time and date, you're getting a stopwatch, you're getting an alarm, and you are getting a countdown timer. Now, I will say a neat thing about the alarm is that it also has a flashing backlight and a buzzer feature. So if you don't want to use the standard alarm sound, you can use either the light or the buzzer, which is a really nice feature, I suppose, if you don't want to draw attention to yourself. I can't imagine what you'd use it for, but there it is. Now, the actual case design and the shape of this watch, this is really something I think a lot of people think about when they think of a G-Shock. They probably pull to mind this image of this kind of a rectangular, squarish case that really kind of launched the entire G-Shock line. Now, the DW5600 has, of course, advanced over the years and has gone on to have other lines. For instance, the GW5600E-1. This particular G-Shock has the same case design as the 5000 and the 5600, and a lot of that same G-Shock DNA that it's always known for. But now, when you get into the GWM and the 5610, you're starting to get tough solar. So that's a really nice feature. You're getting that tough solar. You're also getting multi-band 6 for a lot more accurate timekeeping. You're also getting a world timer function on top of all of these other functions. And you are no longer getting the electroluminescent light. You are getting an LED backlight. So the display is a lot clearer and a lot more crisp. But I think overall, if we're going back to the DW5600 series, this is really a very, very, very iconic watch. And I think this is really a good gateway or a starting point for people looking to get into collecting G-Shocks. And I should mention that the DW5600E-1V is approved by NATO for its service members to use in the field. So along with all of these other things, it has this NATO service number attached to it, which I think kind of lends it a little bit of credibility as well. So there you go. There's our first watch, the DW5600E-1V. Let's take a look at the next one. G-Shock. This is the GX56TU. Now, like all other G-Shocks, this has the standard stuff that's built into it. You've got your tough solar, you have your 200 meters of water resistance, you've got your G-Shock shock resistance, you have your alarms, your countdown timers, and your world time. Now, the one thing that I really like about this watch is that it has taken the case shape of the DW5600 series, and you'll notice it's kind of squished it in a little. It looks a little bit more square than the DW5600 series. You'll also notice the pushers on this watch are really protruding from the sides of this thing. This just looks really huge. Now, I love this case design. I think this case design just looks really awesome. You have these very oversized pushers on the outside that have this cross hatching on them. And then the case itself kind of envelops or kind of surrounds the pushers themselves to add another layer of protection against accidental engagement and so forth. Now, you'll notice that the display on this watch is broken into two sections, unlike the 5600 series from the DW line. In this case, for this GX line here, you'll notice that the top half of the screen, this will tell you the actual functions that you are going to be going through when you use the mode button. And the bottom half of the display will be the actual function that you are in. So if you hit stopwatch, it'll say stopwatch at the top and you'll have the actual stopwatch at the bottom. Anyway, I think this is really a really awesome, tough, rugged, purpose-built looking case, and it's just very utilitarian. The watch overall is just fantastic. The watch strap, although it is resin, you'll notice that it has a double pin with a single buckle, and I just think that just kind of adds to that utilitarian type look. This watch sits very large on the wrist. It is 55.5 millimeters from lug to lug, and it is 53 millimeters plus or minus in the case diameter. So this thing sits really tall. It's also really tall on the wrist too, but it only weighs in at approximately 85 to 88 grams. So very light on the wrist. Again, this is a G-Shock, and G-Shocks are not known to be very heavy watches. So you can see that overall, really nice looking watch. I just love the way this watch is built, and it really just kind of is a really nice badass looking watch. And for 150 bucks, you can pick one of these up on Amazon, and you can start wearing one of these around right away. Now, I understand that not everybody has 150 bucks that they can spend on something like this, but maybe they like that look, and maybe they want to have something similar to that. Well, I have something for you. I will show you. This is the Casio DW291H. Yeah. So this has a lot of the features that you see on that GX56TU, but you're not paying a G-Shock price. Now, I will say you are not getting a G-Shock. That is absolutely 100% true. But you're getting pretty much the same things that this GX56TU has. The 200 meters water resistance, the world timer, stopwatch, countdown timer, you name it. Now, it doesn't have an LED backlight. This is using kind of a standard amber illuminator backlight, but it does illuminate really well. And you can pick one of these up for around $32. And like everything else, I've put a link for this in the description. Let's take a look at the third G-Shock. All right, so let's take a look at this G-Shock right here. This is the DW9052-1. This is another example of a watch that has been approved by NATO. So it too has a NATO stock number and is approved for use by military personnel in the field. This also is a watch that was issued to U.S. Navy salvage divers during their training and so forth. And you can see why. This watch is just pretty much like the DW5600. Very utilitarian, very straightforward. You have your day, your date. You have a stopwatch, you have a countdown timer, and you have an alarm that, like the DW5600, has a flash alert and a buzzer feature. But instead of getting it in that kind of square case, you're getting it more in this kind of round case. The one thing that I did like about this is that the light button, so if you want to activate that electroluminescent backlight, you hit the button just below the watch itself. It's marked with a big G on it. So you hit that and that lights the whole watch up. So that really makes it kind of easy to read and very accessible. The other thing about this watch that's a little bit different than all of the other G-Shocks that we've been talking about up to this point is this has hinged lugs. So what that basically means is the watch lies flat versus how most G-Shocks won't. The lugs are not flat, they're more fixed, so it won't lay flat basically. But this is another example of a really great watch that somebody can pick up here for around 52 bucks. So if you're really not into the G-Shock DW5600 case design, and I really don't know why, I mean a lot of people like that, but I mean you might not like it, so whatever. This DW9052 I think is a great option to fill that as well. And at 52 bucks, you really can't go wrong with it. All right, so now we're going to look at two watches from G-Shock's Masters of G collection. And this watch right here is our first watch. This is the G9000-1. This is the Mudman. Now, this Mudman is a little bit different than I think from some of the other Mudman watches within this particular range. This one, when I was reading up on it, is designed more for motor sports enthusiasts, which I think is rather interesting. You still have a lot of these other features. Now, the Mudman is really kind of designed to keep dirt and grime and oil and just all kinds of gunk out of the watch, which that makes a lot of sense. So this watch features two 1,000-hour stopwatches. Yep, I said 1,000 hours. Now, I think that makes a lot of sense if you're doing like long distance or really long time elapsed races, but 1,000 hours, that seems like a whole lot. Anyway, so you could use one of the stopwatches for timing the entire length of the race. You could maybe use the other stopwatch to do things like, I don't know, time your pit stops or things like that. It is a really very functional designed watch that really kind of fits the bill of a motorsports enthusiast. You do have dual LED backlights, which allow the watch to really be illuminated in low light conditions or no light conditions. The pushers on this particular watch, they're red and they're very pronounced on this watch. So again, I really can see where they would have designed this for a motorsports enthusiast. This still has the same functions as obviously time, date, the stopwatch. There's two of them, obviously. You have your countdown timer. You've got pretty much all these other things, and the 200 meters of water resistance as well. Now, you can pick up this particular watch for around $73 on Amazon, and I think, if you are a motorsports enthusiast, this seems like maybe the kind of watch that you might want to pick up. Maybe you might be the mechanic or the crew chief, or maybe on these big long distance drives you might be a navigator type. I don't know. I don't know much about motorsports, but if you do know a lot about motorsports and you maybe are a mechanic on a crew or something like that, I don't know, leave me a comment below and let me know what you think of this watch. Does this watch make sense? Does it just not make sense? Are there other options that might be more viable for use in motorsports? Anyway, but for 73 bucks, I think this is something that you could put, or I should say, a motorsports mechanic could put in their kit and really make use of something like that. All right, so now we come to our final watch, and this is also our second watch in the Masters of G collection. This is the GW9400-1. This is the Rangeman, and this watch I really can see really geared toward serious outdoor enthusiasts. We're talking off-trail backpackers, campers, hikers. I'm thinking mountain climbers. I'm thinking rescue teams, mountain rescue teams, perhaps even ocean rescue teams, things like that. This watch really has a lot of features packed into it. So right from the start, you always have, of course, your 200 meters of water resistance that all G-Shocks are known for. But this one also has a triple sensor built into it. So this one will give you your altitude as well as your barometric pressure, and it also gives you your temperature and your compass heading. So you're getting 4 features in that triple sensor. And to access any of these particular functions, there is a big large button on the side of the watch. So as you're looking at it, it's on the right side, you can't miss it. And when you press the button to access any of these modes, it will make a tone specific to that function. So I guess that makes it easier, so you're not having to look down at the watch to cycle through the actual function you're looking for. So you can kind of concentrate or keep your eye on the environment around you while you're punching through these different functions. And when you get to the right one, then there you go. Now, this watch has those features, plus you are still getting the standard feature. You're getting a world time in this watch. You're also getting sunrise and sunset times. You have 5 alarms built into this. This is crazy. You've got a countdown timer, you have the tough solar, and you have multi-band 6. This watch has so much packed into it. And you can pick one of these up for around $210. Now, like I said, I really kind of see this watch for more of those super outdoor enthusiasts or outdoor professionals, in fact, that would use something like this. This is really kind of like, I don't know, a Swiss Army knife of these G-Shock collections that we've been looking at here today. This thing does everything. So maybe you might want to pick something up like that. I don't know. All right, so there you have it. 5 G-Shocks, all for under $250. In fact, the most expensive one was $210. So let me know what you think of these watches. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think. And if you think of another watch that maybe I missed that is under that $250 range, also leave a comment below. Let me know which one you found that really fits that bill for you. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. And I totally understand. The Casio catalog is absolutely huge. And it's not just the Casio Standard and G-Shocks, although those are some of the most popular ones. You also have Edifice, Oceanus, you have Lineage, you have the Wave Scepter line, you have all of these different watches. And that can be pretty overwhelming for anybody who's looking for a watch. So that's why I put this video over here to help you through that. Thanks so much for watching.